Welcome to Retro Spectrum, the podcast where we choose an artist, listen to their entire discography, and then try to make it all make sense. This week, we are covering the artist Cat Power.
Also known as Sean Marshall. You may notice that our energy is a little low-key in this episode, much like Cat Power's music.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. We sound like a couple of people who have been listening to Cat Power for 2 weeks straight on this recording.
So please enjoy our NPR 5. So, anything fun that you've done?
No, tell me about Bikini Kill. If you don't, we're not talking about me.
Okay, Bikini Kill was fucking awesome. Like
Expand.
It's the best mosh pit that you can ever be in because she tells all the women to come to the front. So,
did you go to the front?
Of course. I mean, I have a vagina. I don't know how she phrases it, actually. I don't know if I'm pretty sure she says, like, you know, girls or women or something. She needs to just say dudes to the back, ass hats to the back.
No, because then no dude would, because nobody would willingly put themselves in that category. You have to be specific.
Yeah. So
where was it at?
I don't even remember, honestly. The venue is known for the male bartenders drugging women. So
cool.
I had a low bar, you know, but I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't get any drinks from any men though. I only went to the chick bartenders, but yeah, they had gender neutral bathrooms, which was killer. That was super refreshing, especially in fucking Texas. It was like, it just feels so nice to be able to be standing in a bathroom right next to a dude pissing in a urinal and neither of us give a fuck, you know? So that felt really nice. That vibe was really cool. The whole vibe was awesome just because it's Bikini Kill and the people who like that band are obviously like feminists and shit.
Right.
So, I mean, there were some dudes there and there were some dudes that were too tall to be standing in front of all of us kind of vibe, which they always are. And I don't want to be like, you know, fuck tall people or whatever, but I don't know. It's fucking annoying. If I was tall as hell, I wouldn't fucking stand in the front.
You know what is the solution to that problem that works for everybody?
What?
Tiered floors, like stadium standing, not just flat.
Totally. It's
genius. The best. That's how the tower does it. And it's like every 20 feet or whatever, it's like another step up and then there's 20 flat feet. And then it's like, so you're never, if you're at like, if you really want to be at the front, you can be at the front of that level and then you're basically in the front. And then if you're towards the back, you're not behind like the whole crowd. You're just at the back of your little section. It's ideal. And then the front is kind of the pit and you're below the stage, you know? So it's like, you're not really watching the show that much anyways, if you're,
or you're just looking up at them,
jumping around and stuff. Yeah. But you get that, like, I'm at a show view. But it's really nice. You can be in the very middle, like most of the way towards the back, and you can see over everybody. And because like I've tried to be more conscientious, like standing in the back at places, but like it sucks. You go so far back, you can't see anything, you know, because I'm not like extraordinarily tall, and there's generally somebody taller than me in the middle of it, and you know, so I get it from both sides. But I think it's a structural thing that if that was changed would make it easier for everybody. Or really seats. We should just be putting seats everywhere.
I know, right? And there was a balcony level with seats, and that's the level that actually one of my friends was on. There were lights like on the bottom of the balcony, but I heard somebody scream Hollywood and I was like, who the fuck is this? And I should have known. It was Krista. I should have known because, you know, she's like the one person that I know listens to Bikini Kill, you know.
What songs did they play?
Oh man, I don't have like a set list memorized or anything, but I will say that they played my favorite song, Double Dare Ya. And they also played Rebel Girl. And they might have played one more, but I don't remember.
So how was the energy level? I want to know about the show. I want to know.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun. So I was having a fucking horrible day. So when I got there, I wasn't really very pleased. And also the opening band was not necessarily, it was confusing because I wanted to like them really bad and I liked some things about them. Do you know Shannon and the Clams?
Yes.
So the Shannon was in this band the band that opened for them is called Hunks in the
Sounds like
Punks or something like that.
Oh yeah, Hunks and his Punks or something.
Something, yes. And so Shannon from Shannon and the Clams is in the band, and
Without her clams?
yeah, and that's what I wanted. I just wanted Shannon. I didn't really give a fuck about the Hunks or whatever. They were okay. Shannon was fucking amazing. Her voice is incredible. Yeah, she was the best part of that band. So it was exciting to see her at least, and the other women in the band. It was interesting to me that they didn't just have like an all female-ish, opener. You'd think they'd have a chick band opener, but whatever. So yeah, that part I wasn't like super crazy about, but the obviously Bikini Kill show was awesome. It's funny because it's a punk band, so you can't even tell what she's saying half the time. But it's all about the vibe, and the audience was like so chill, and I mean it was like hot girl central for sure. All the chicks in the mosh pit. It's so funny how women are so much more considerate about like space than men are, even in a fucking mosh pit. Sometimes when we would like bump into each other too aggressively, like we would both stop and apologize, like that kind of thing. Like chicks were like, sorry, left and right, but also moshing at the same time, but not like in a stupid way, not like overly saying sorry, but just like if it was a little bit too aggressive, like, oh, sorry, or like I stepped on someone's foot kind of thing. I don't know. But yeah, and there was a lot of flirting happening too, because it was a bunch of queer women, which is great. Got a few Instagrams, you know what I'm saying?
How'd you meet? We gave each other a black eye at a Bikini Kill show.
No, it's not. It wasn't that aggressive, which is great. Like I wasn't all fucking bruised up or sore the next day. It was perfect. It was almost like we were all just kind of smushed together, like swaying in a way, like it didn't feel unsafe and we all had each other's backs. It was really nice. And everybody was screaming the lyrics. It was awesome.
Was it one of those things where you left like feeling more positive than you went? Because like sometimes I go to shows and it's like, oh my God, this is why I do music. Like this is why I'm into music.
And then sometimes you go and it's like, oh, this is why I don't leave the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Which side of the spectrum did that fall on?
Away the first one. Yeah. Like way. I definitely felt like super jazzed after, and I was having a shitty day. So it improved upon my day for sure.
Nice. Well, I'm very jealous that you got to go.
Yeah, you should have come.
Yeah. Time being what it is, limited and all that.
Here's what I'm about to talk about. Cat fucking power. And I had some thoughts today, actually. I had some thoughts come together in my mind today because the first time I listened through, so I've known Cat Power for, I don't know, since that album Before the Greatest came out, I think.
Is that what will the community think, or is it the covers one, first covers one? Oh, You Are Free, that one. That's the one.
Is that the one? Field?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that's the first album that I had like become aware of her.
Mm-hmm.
What year is that?
2003.
In the early 2000s, I became aware of her, I guess, and just knew the popular songs. And I thought that I liked her, and I don't not like her.
Yeah.
But, and I don't mean her like the person, obviously. I'm just talking about the music. That should be obvious, right?
No, I want to talk about her personally.
Well, I did read a couple interviews, and she was pretty combative to the person interviewing her, but I feel like I'd probably be that way too.
Right.
Just depending on their vibe too. Basically, a couple times she was like, "That's a stupid fucking question," like that kind of shit.
And in her defense, it probably was,
yeah,
question that you've been asked 400 other times.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, she's probably, as a person, I don't fucking know, but maybe we'd get along. Who knows? But musically, it's pretty fucking bland. Let's be real. So I don't know. I thought I liked her, from what I knew of her, but now that I've listened to all of it, I have some thoughts. When did you find out about her?
I just randomly picked up an album not that long ago because I know the name and it puts me in the mind of like 90s alternative.
Interesting.
Girl rock. So I just didn't know. Like I kind of think like Liz Phair and like
really?
Even like, but it's just a lack of
just because of the name
grouping
has power in it, probably.
Yeah, something like that. But even like the Alanis Morissette or some of those singer-songwriter-y types from the 90s. Like, so I get like the thoughts of 90s and singer-songwriter and kind of like emotional female singer. But like I thought it was more aggressive in my head before I listened to it. So I bought this album thinking it was going to be rock and rollin' girl,
And then you fell
like girl
asleep.
power. And I brought it home and listened to it and it's like, it's not bad. It's just not that at all. It
Yeah.
was like one guitar and one voice and all very mellow. Cause I got what would the community think?
So is that the reason that you chose Cat Power for this?
Partially, yeah, because I was like,
Just
I was
because you randomly bought an album?
yeah, and I was so far off base that I was like, all right, what is this music? What is this band? Who is this person? That sort of stuff. And like I said, I didn't dislike it. It just wasn't what I expected it to be. It was a lot more mellow. And then I started doing a little bit of research and I was like, I don't know. It goes places. It's just definitely not the same thing for her entire discography. That's for sure. I think it's definitely broken up into some like different chunks.
So basically, this is your first foray into Cat Power.
Yes. So I got that album and then listened to it, and it wasn't what I thought it was, but I was doing the like research and just kind of learning about her and that sort of stuff. And it was right before the new covers album came out. And so it came out too, and I was like, "Oh, I'll listen to that." And I heard the cover of the "Papa Power," the Dead Man's Bones song, which I really liked, and was like, "Oh, I think this is really good." So like, I wonder what the body of work is. Like, I wonder what the rest of the songs are like. I wonder what the rest of the vibe is. And now I know.
And what would you say that it is?
Which albums are we talking about? Because again, I think that she works really well as a vocalist. Like I love the stuff that felt more like that's why I think the cover albums work so well, is because it's her rendition of all these other songs and she gets to add her like vocal stylings to it or like her mood.
Do you think that's why she does so many cover albums? Because that's her strength?
Maybe, but it kind of reminds me of like old singers where they would just take like old standards and do their version of it, and yeah, it seems like she's doing that with more current songs. I mean, not all the songs are current, a lot of them from the 60s and 70s.
That's a really nice way to frame it, because in my head the whole time all I could think is this is like tofu,
in the sense that it's like
who is this?
Yeah,
every other song sounded like some other musician. Like I honestly couldn't fucking pick Cat Power out of a
dude. I have watched interviews with her and I don't know what she looks like. I think that I have every picture or interview or video of her that I have seen. She looks like a different person. So because I like to watch.
Cat Power is the first AI, like the first humanoid level AI.
That explains a lot of the early music where it's like we're just really figuring out how this works, like how what are chords.
Okay,
even?
We explained it. Podcast over.
Do you even need to play notes that go next to each other, or can you just do whatever you want and then people will listen to it? How much do you know about like her or origin story, like where she came from or any of that stuff?
Nothing.
So she's from Georgia originally, which I think you can hear in a lot of the Southern drawl and that kind of like, there's a little bit of that accent in there, especially in interviews and speaking and stuff. But it puts me in mind of like the Lou Reed, like heroin music that's like very lethargic or like barely even concerned with like keeping itself together. Almost like it kind of feels like it's coming apart as you're listening to it.
Ooh, I like the way you said that. It's interesting that you say Lou Reed, because the whole time, or not the whole time, a lot of her songs sound like, who is it that sings with the Velvet Underground? Is it Nico Case?
No,
just Nico.
Yeah.
Okay, I always get those two confused. It pisses me off that Nico Case exists, honestly, just because Nico is the only Nico. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I fucking love her voice, and Cat Power's voice in so many songs sounds like I thought it was her half the time. So this is a thing that I have thought about for a long time. Tom Petty. I think of Tom Petty and Cat Power to be in the same vein. And by that, like, I mean, Tom Petty.
Heartbreaker. Classic heartbreaker.
No, okay. I've always liked Tom Petty. I always liked, what I knew of Cat Power. But after just one day, it clicked with me that Tom Petty is just a wannabe Bob Dylan. He just sounds like he's doing Bob Dylan. Like that's exactly what he's doing, except for like, speeding it up a little. And I feel like Cat Power is that, but with multiple artists, not just one. Nico, PJ Harvey's, Kim Gordon, like, I don't know. Her voice, she makes her voice sound like even like Janis Joplin sometimes.
Yeah, I got some of that in there too.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Like fine and pretty to listen to and stuff, but like the whole time I'm just like, who are you? You're Tofu. You're Tom Petty. So yeah, even some of the songs sounded like in the later I was gonna say seasons, episodes,
Albums.
in the later albums.
Uh-huh.
Like I was getting Fiona Apple, Saint Vincent. Like,
yes, both of those came up on my after the album was done. Both of those artists came up there.
See,
a
that
lot
makes
of
perfect
Fiona
sense.
Apple, a lot of Saint Vincent.
Yes, because there are so many, like probably maybe even half of Cat Power's music, I thought it was somebody else.
Yeah.
Because it sounds almost exactly like somebody else, even the instrumentation. And so I'm like, are you just imitating your favorites? And she likes, obviously she does a lot of covers. So maybe that is what she's doing.
Or depending on when those other artists that you mentioned, I mean, clearly Nico and Janis Joplin or whatever are precursors to Cat Power, but she could have been an influence on them as well, especially the Fiona Apples and St. Vincent's of the world, because she started releasing stuff in the mid
Fiona
90s.
Apple was before.
Well,
or maybe
but around
they came
the same
out like
time.
right at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
but
it's
then
kind of a time.
She didn't start sounding like Fiona Apple until later though.
Yeah. Part of how I feel about this artist is that like I'm not cool enough to understand it. It's kind of the same way that I feel about Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground. Like there's clearly something here. She has a magnetism and a pull that has drawn artists to her from all over. I think that if you talk to musicians, they will all say that they are fans of Cat Power, and she clearly has very dedicated fans. But it's like I don't understand really, especially in the earlier stuff. I do get it later on, but the early first few albums where it's just all the low key stuff, it just doesn't connect with me in any real sort of way. And I wonder how much of it is based on it being like lyrics based, and I'm more of a melody person. And there's not like none of these songs are going to get stuck in my head. And I didn't spend enough time to know.
Yeah, the first album was super lo-fi. I wrote very Nico, PJ Harvey, Kim Gordon vibes.
So you're saying that's another similar?
Yes, Kim Gordon, PJ Harvey, and Nico.
Sonic Youth, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Those first two albums, Myra Lee and Dear Sir, were recorded with Sonic Youth's guitar player. It was her and the guitar player from Sonic Youth. And they recorded both of those albums apparently in one day. Like they did 2 albums worth of material, which is another kind of cool thing about these albums is that's
impressive.
They're all live. Like they're all basically live of just like,
well, they're very lo-fi.
We're in the studio and we're just playing and what you get is what you get. And I really like that mentality.
I like that too.
I'm not crazy about the final product though. It yeah. feels a little underbaked to the point where it's like, you can hear when the guitar strings aren't being pressed down all the way, like it won't make a clean sound. It makes that like buzzy sound because there's like a lot of that in a couple of these albums. And it's like, I think it's an aesthetic choice, but it's just one that's like, do another take I don't know. I like personality in recording. I think that's a cool thing. And I didn't hate this, but it was like, it's a very, like you are sitting in a room with this person playing guitar, and it's barely a band or like barely an album in the traditional sense of album production.
I mean, it's impressive if anyone makes anything.
Yes. It's always difficult to make anything. I think those first 4 albums are really like, if you get into later Cat Power, those are a different vibe, and you could very easily like everything after that, but not really care for those first 4 from Moonpix backwards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The first one that was really kind of like a little more catchy to me, or a little more palatable.
I thought the second one was better than the first.
Yeah.
It was haunting.
Same day.
It was kind of oscillating between too haunting and too sweet.
Yeah.
Mushy, beautiful, sad, too depressing for me is what I wrote in my.
It is. very depressing. It is
I wrote
very
Elliott Smith, super sad, wallowing vibes musically.
yes, that's exactly it. Like I can barely do anything, and the only thing that I have chosen to do is play this guitar right now, and it's like taking 120% of my ability to do this. Very, very, very sad, like just downer songs on there. But there's some weird production choices on there too. There's weird like electronic beeping in some of them. There are notes and chords that just do not match with each other being played at the same time, and it's
I
like
feel like Sonic Youth is kind of dissonant and stuff
yeah,
like
there's
that as
a
well.
lot of dissonance.
So Moonpix started to grab me a little more.
Yeah, it's where I think you get a little bit more production value too.
Well, it was kind of feist vibes, which I love. I fucking love Feist. So, ooh, I can't wait till we do Feist. That'll be fun.
And I think Moonpix was kind of the first of the like bigger breakthrough where it wasn't just a if you know, you know.
I liked some songs on Moonpix and I liked the cover too. I'm pretty sure I put a couple of Moonpix songs on the playlist.
Which takes us to the first of 3 covers albums. It's called the Covers Record, which I think was I don't know. I think it maybe had something to do with the recording deal. Is like here's another album sort of thing. You know, like they were wanting another album, but she did a cover album. And it is another one of those, like it's got Satisfaction, the Rolling Stones. Like it has some songs that everybody's gonna know. But man, there's some choices on here.
Obscure ass songs.
Yeah, thank you. Because it's one of those things. It's like, am I supposed to know what the original version of these songs sound like? Because I do not. I don't. So I don't have anything to compare it to.
No, yeah. One of her couple covers albums, I was like, what? Who? I don't know these.
Yeah, what are we covering here?
Which I appreciate.
I again think that was cool. I think it's like take the idea of taking an old standard and like making it yourself, making it your own.
But I feel like, okay, so I appreciate obscure cover songs because I love to do obscure cover songs and like obscure karaoke, but for every single song on the album to be like completely no one's ever heard of it type of vibe is an interesting choice.
I think that you could look at it as a way to introduce people to lesser known artists, kind of like a comp album would be, but like, hey, here are artists that influenced me or that I'm really into, and here's maybe some lesser known stuff from them.
Okay, yeah. You have a way more positive spin on this shit than I do, and I really appreciate it.
And like, here's my take on it. I read somewhere where a guy said like all these cover albums are not her doing these songs, but like these songs being exposed to her. It is very much filtered through, like with Satisfaction, she doesn't do the chorus or like any of the hooks or anything. And it takes this song and it makes it like all these movie trailers do it now where they take these classic songs and they like slow them down and make them sad and all this stuff. But like, that's kind of what she did with it without it being quite as cliche at this point.
I feel like I could be a cat power type of musician.
That's definitely part of it is like, after listening to this, like, oh, anybody can go record an album. Like you can just go do it. Not to say that she's not talented, but it does have that level of.
It's impressive to be done.
Yeah. So the first Covers record had a bunch of weird, obscure stuff on it. One of them was from Bill Callahan, who she used to date. So it was like she had an ex's song on there, which I also thought was like, I just think it's weird. I think there are a lot of weird choices on there. And my take is really that those are songs that were either influences or at least worth revisiting for her. And it made me want to go listen to a lot of the original ones. I didn't have time to go back and actually compare them to the original version of the song, but I was interested to go kind of do a side by side, to see how
that's a good idea.
See how different they are.
So the greatest, I think, is like what she's known for.
That was the one where it was like, finally we're doing
an album.
Yes, yeah. Now we're doing it. We got a backing band. We got some songs with some structure, and we got lead parts and rhythm parts, and we got horns, and like that's what I think that she's a really talented vocalist, and I just liked that there was a little bit more there, a little bit more for her to interact with. And
what year did that come out?
2006.
Yeah, that's when I feel like she just started being more known.
Oh, how'd you feel about You Are Free?
Oh, I like that one.
That one has
The Good One is what I wrote.
It has Eddie Vedder and
Can't Go Wrong.
The dude that said Nirvana's drummer, Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl. Jesus Christ.
Nice.
It has Eddie Vedder and Dave Grohl on the album doing backup parts or like supporting roles in it, which I thought was interesting. But that's what I mean. Like, I think that she has some clout or some amount of draw to get people to work with her. And it really just feels like, did you read the thing any about her modeling career?
I think that was a part of that interview that I read, that there might have been like one question about it or something.
She got offered a modeling contract because the guy saw her smoking a cigarette outside his building and was just like, oh, will you model for us? And like a lot of this stuff just feels like that. Like, oh, you were in this place and you were like, oh, you should open for Sonic Youth or whatever. And then you
just
end up
right place at the right time.
Yes.
Luck,
like so many times over and over and over again.
I wrote Jukebox bland.
The Greatest was great. Jukebox is, it's okay. It didn't do anything too much for me. The next one I really liked though was Sun, which I didn't expect to like as much.
I wrote Fave maybe.
Yeah, it had some electronic stuff kind of thrown in there
too,
which
the
was
more funky Fiona Apple, St. Vincent vibes.
That one she wrote and produced and recorded all on her own. Like she did all the instrumentation and stuff on it, which I think she did on some of the lower key ones, but this one actually had some stuff to it. It wasn't.
She was more practiced.
Yeah, maybe a little more practice.
Is that the last album? Or there's another covers one, huh?
There's Sun was 2012, and then it was another 6 years till Wanderer came out, and I guess she had a kid in that time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember anything about Wanderer. I have nothing to say about Wanderer.
I don't either.
Did you listen to the songs for Flag Day that she did the soundtrack for?
Yes, I did.
I guess that's like a Sean Penn movie that he wrote and directed and stars in with his daughter. I looked up the movie because I was like, I want to see what this is about. And it's like a road trip movie where he stars with his daughter and also directs her. It did not have favorable Rotten Tomatoes, so I will not be.
Why am I not surprised?
I will not be watching that.
Okay, so today, after I was already thinking earlier about how like I've been thinking of her as like the Tom Petty type of vibe, I fucking come in here and I'm listening to the like This Is Cat Power radio whatever station.
Yeah.
And a song starts playing and I'm like, whoa, this sounds like Bob Dylan, dude. She sounds like Bob Dylan now. So not only is Tom Petty fucking trying to be Bob Dylan, also Cat Power's trying to be Bob Dylan. So then I fucking pick up the phone because I'm like, what is this? It's from the I'm Not There soundtrack. So she was literally being Bob Dylan.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I guess that
she's a really good vocal impressionist, actually.
I was afraid that you had some disease where if you listen to an artist long enough, they turn into Bob Dylan
like
in
Bob
your
Dylan.
head. Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Elvis is really just doing Bob Dylan. I wonder, I would like to have a conversation with someone who's really into Cat Power to get it kind of explained to me a little bit.
Yeah, me too. That'd be good.
I did like the new covers album. I like the newer stuff a lot better. I like the stuff that's a little more cohesive than the older stuff. I
like the stuff that sounds like other artists that I already like.
So you're saying just listen to those artists instead?
Kind of. I mean, not instead. You can listen to Cat Power too, but I don't know. There's just if you want to hear something that sounds like this, you could listen to a whole bunch of albums of another artist that does sound like that, and it's consistently sounds like that.
Right?
It doesn't switch back and forth between who do I sound like today.
Well, and I wonder how much of that was like a artistic choice. Like I want to record an album that sounds like this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like her impressions are fucking awesome. Like if she wanted to be like do musical impressions, like
work at a piano bar
I'm interested in, or like do stand up or some kind of stage performance that is musical impressions on purpose type of vibe. It could be anything. It could be like a theater show, it could be a movie. I'm thinking she could fucking work in film. She, in the interview that I read, she said basically that she would never want to do that, but
she's in a movie.
Think she would be.
I watched the trailer for it.
Right. I think she would be really good though, as like playing a certain musician, take your fucking pick. Like
Aretha Franklin.
They did like a, maybe not, but if they did a biopic about like, fucking Janis Joplin and again, I also don't know what Cat Power looks like really. She kind of looks different. Yeah, you're right. She looks different. So she's a master of disguise. Actually, she and I have a
She
lot in
should
common.
be in Master of Disguise. They should remake the Dana Carvey movie.
Oh no.
I'm a turtle.
No, but what I'm saying is if they did like a fucking
That's a good turtle joke.
PJ Harvey biopic,
Yeah.
Kim Gordon biopic, a Nico biopic, Cat Power could do all of that. And that would be interesting. That'd be interesting to see her play. You know what? Maybe one day when I have a bunch of money and I make a fucking biopic about one of these people,
you're gonna get Cat Power to play.
And she'll be like, "No, I heard you talk shit about me on this podcast.
Yeah.
You called me
Also,
tofu 20 times."
Yeah, I can't play a young Janis Joplin. I'm not young. Do you want to talk about her live performance? Did you read any?
It doesn't have to be a
that,
biopic. It could be like a reimagined fiction, like Bubba Hotep. You know how he's like Elvis, kind of. It could be like an
put
old
her in a
woman
nursing home,
in
but
a nursing home that thinks she's Janis
Joplin. Okay, I'll reach out to her people. You type up a treatment. I'll send it to her, and we'll see if she's in. Would you like your career to take 1,000 steps backwards? then please agree to be in our Bubba Hotep adjacent. It's like it's got to be in the Hotep universe. Be sure that you sell it to her like that also. Yeah, good luck. Did you see or read anything about her live performances?
Negative. I have tried to see her a couple of times and she's either like not shown up or I just missed her somehow.
Well, apparently she has really bad stage fright. And
maybe she didn't show up.
There were a lot of instances of either not showing up or stopping shows halfway through or doing very short sets. And then
maybe she played like one song and I was in the bathroom,
could have been something like that. But I guess there was also a lot of like alcohol abuse in the 90s and late 90s and early 2000s and went to rehab for all that stuff too. And so I think like that mixed with the stage fright stuff led to some pretty erratic live shows, which I guess I don't know if it's that bad anymore or not. But I think she has a lot of performance anxiety. I watched a NPR Tiny Desk concert from just a few years ago, and the little description was about like how nervous and tense she was. And like all the comments were like, that's really rude. She has, anxiety and all that stuff. And you're like calling her out for it basically. Like, but she did seem, I don't know. It's interesting to see someone who's an established, well-liked performer still dealing with stage fright and performance anxiety and all that stuff. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice of a career.
That's what I think too. It's like you can do a lot of other stuff. And I think she has. I mean, there's 6 years between a couple of different albums where it's like
also you don't have to do shows
something.
to be a musician.
Yeah.
I wonder if she like feels pressured to or something. That's funny that people were like, "Oh, give her a break. She has anxiety." It's like, yeah, sure, but also she's choosing to
she didn't drive to the studio today. Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting angle too, because I think some of that comes across in the music, especially the earlier music as well. That like, I don't know. It's maybe weird.
That's the tofu factor too.
Yeah. I think there's an element of originality in a lot of her performances, but I understand what I understand what you're saying.
I'm not saying it's all that, but there is a lot of that. I said 50%, I think.
50% tofu.
50% tofu, 50% sauce, broccoli, and sauce. I'm hungry. I was really wanting some fucking Thai food.
That's a weird note to end on.
That could be the end easily.
Yes, of everything. This could be the end of our entire friendship. Do we need to have a listen to, recommend, don't recommend, skip it?
I recommend playing this album in a coffee shop as like background music.
Yo, not the early ones. That would be very upsetting to go to a coffee shop and hear those fucking sad, like they're oppressively sad songs.
A lot of coffee shops play shit like that.
And just to have them like at their real downers, it wouldn't be a very lively experience.
Okay, here's what I recommend. Putting Cat Power, like the playlist of all of her music on at a coffee shop. You could do that.
And just have it
because then it
skip
would shuffle
between.
in between
There is a lot of
that
there
shit.
is a lot of variety there. Those last 3 or 4 albums. I mean, when you get the electronic
You
one
could,
and you
if
get the
you shuffled
greatest,
through her entire discography in a coffee shop for an
yeah,
entire day, you would think that it was a bunch of different artists playing. And really, it's all her.
and that's something. I think if
Yeah,
you were
that's
gonna
pretty
do one
impressive.
album, I think the greatest is the album for me. That if I like was only ever gonna listen to one of them again, I did go back after finishing listening to all of them and go back and listen to the older stuff again just to see if it was like colored different, after hearing what the songs or what her style or whatever eventually became. It didn't. They still sounded pretty much the same. I feel like it's too dense for me to want to get into because it doesn't grab me that much. Like for me to be really into it, I'd have to spend more time with it than I want to spend. But I like
Agreed.
the greatest just on face value
Yeah, and the one before it.
and Sun. So
And
there's some
put those
stuff in
4
there I think
albums on shuffle and you're good.
yeah, I think there's probably some stuff that I would be fine not listening to again.
Yeah.
You're welcome, world.
Nailed it.
Okay, so it's funny in the episode you brought up the Bob Dylan reference or like the Bob Dylan comparison that clearly he was an influence on her and she sounds like him and we've talked about she was kind of a good interpreter and stuff. Well, we didn't really get into it, but she released a live album of it's called Cat Power Sings Dylan and it's all Dylan covers. So I think she kind of wears that influence on her sleeve. I think that was pretty spot on.
Did you listen to it?
I did. It's got a kind of an interesting backstory to the album too. It's not just Dylan covers.
What's the rest of it?
It's recorded at the Royal Albert Hall, which there's a bootleg of Dylan in like 1966, and it's one of the shows where he first went electric. And so like the first half is all folk, like acoustic, and the second half of the set is him going electric. And I think there's clips from people like coming out of that show in the Scorsese documentary, and like it was a big deal. People were pissed off, when he went from it's not the Newport Folk Festival, but it's a similar thing of like people were mad that he was playing with the fully electric band. And so on this Cat Power album, she plays at the place where the bootleg says it was recorded. I found out it actually wasn't recorded there, but whatever. She plays at the place where the bootleg was named and plays the entire same set list. So she does, it's like,
Then did he do covers at that show?
no, it's all Dylan songs.
Oh, I thought you said it wasn't all Dylan songs.
So she plays the same set list that he does. It's like 15 songs. The first 7 or 8 are all just her and an acoustic guitar, like traditional Bob Dylan folk style, And then the back half is all the electric versions of those songs too. And I don't know.
I absolutely love the idea of this project.
That's what I thought too. Like it is a really cool, really good idea. And if you really liked an artist, it's like kind of a fun homage to that artist,
Yeah. Ode to Bob.
And she is a really good interpreter. But her cover albums, she really reinterprets the songs on the cover albums. Like they don't really sound like the originals very much. These are very straight up, like direct. There's some like, you can tell it's her singing. But I think the goal of this was to be a little bit more
like a musical impression.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Which is what we had talked about. And so
which is what I like.
Right.
I do like that she has that ability.
And so if you're a Dylan fan, like it's interesting to hear these reinterpretations of the songs while still holding the same, like, if anything, it's a testament to the quality of his songwriting because the songs still hold up so well, 50 years later and sung by a different person, like the
I fucking love Dylan, so I'm sure that this is going to be cool. I'm excited to listen to it.
It seems like a fun project, of just like, I don't know. Fun's
One of
maybe
your
not
idols.
the right word. Like it's not
That
like
seems fun to
wacky or
me.
goofy, but it's like it's a cool thing. I think it's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's a really good idea.
And so I thought that was interesting to kind of piggyback on the Dylan impression or whatever. Like not only was she on that soundtrack, she actually has a whole album of Dylan covers too that I would argue is worth checking out. I do think that one of her strengths is as a cover artist or somebody who puts their spin or interpretations on other musicians' work.
And finding out about stuff like that makes me feel validated in my opinions on it.
I don't know. I thought that was interesting, and I would argue it's worth checking out too.
I will definitely check that out. I I didn't really super connect to this music necessarily. I just feel like maybe I'm missing something like you had said before, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just haven't spent enough time on it, but it's sort of I feel the same way about Cat Power as I did with They Might Be Giants pretty much as far as like I thought that I liked it more than I did before
Yeah.
I actually listened to all of it. And I still like what I liked before, you
Yeah.
know? Like I still like her songs that I liked before. I still like the They Might Be Giant songs that I liked before. The rest of it, maybe not as much.
It's kind of a like you turn all this stuff over and you dig into it or whatever, and you're not always going to like what you find. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think for us balancing the like curiosity with the not feeling obligated to like enjoy all of it necessarily, because I don't, that's unreasonable. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Right.
For me, what I like to think about is like, what about this speaks to other people, or what about this is the hook.
I don't know. I don't know what else to say if I'm not saying how I really feel about something.
Well, and again, I think it's fine to say you don't like something. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
So one place that I kind of looked to for, because like we're coming at this from like every album front to back, beginning to end, right? And so it's kind of like one thing, but it wasn't. It's been she's released albums for 25, 35 years at this point, and they came out, over time. So like, look, for me, an interesting thing to do is to look at the like critical reception of it, of like which albums at the time they were released were the most well liked, how well are her albums received kind of over her whole career, were there any high points or low points in that kind of thing. And so I was looking at like the average ratings of all of her albums, all of her releases, all the way back to Dear Sir. And it seems like the most well received, like Moonpix is like the one I think that has the highest rating across the board. But it's The Greatest, You Are Free, Moonpix, and What Would the Community Think? Like those are the four that seem to be like the most well liked across the board. Everything is pretty generally in the like 60 to 70 range, which is like, good. But Moonpig seems to be the one that is like, this is the album. This is the album that kind of cemented her place as a figure in the independent music scene. So that for me was helpful. Like, and maybe listening through it again, knowing that Moonpix was kind of the peak of the critical reception, giving a little bit more weight to that on another listen through. Does that change how you hear it?
Well, those were all the ones that I had knew before and already liked. So it makes perfect sense to me that those are the ones that everybody else knows and likes. And the other albums are less known, and it makes sense to me.
And she's still continuing to put out music, so it's worth keeping an eye on the new stuff, and especially if they're going to be projects like the Dylan album. Like, I think she's making interesting choices, and it's not something where it's like I'm never going to listen to this again. It's just a thing that is
no, I'm excited to listen to this Dylan
Yeah.
album, and I will watch what she does next. I'll keep
That's
tabs.
I think that's kind of where I land, is like, to me it is not essential, but it is nice to have this context, or like to know who this artist is, and to kind of know when something else pops up, like, oh yeah, I get that, or like I don't know, I like having the knowledge
I am
that I
aware
didn't
this
have. Yeah, an
exists.
awareness that I didn't have before. All right, so Wheel of Death, trying to connect to the other artists. This one was kind of a bit of a struggle because I don't want to like whatever. This one, it was just hard for me to think of something that really connected to this type of music, but like I didn't want to do another artist that I actually want to listen to that we had talked about here, or like something that wasn't already kind of punishing. So I'm taking the idea of Cat Power's music being kind of like downer and depressing, and like it's really, especially again, the earlier stuff is really kind of like oppressively sad. I'm gonna go the opposite direction and go somebody whose music is like all beaches and sunshine and like flip
Oh,
flops,
okay.
and we're going Jack Johnson
Oh
as our
no.
Wheel of Death
Oh
entry.
no! Oh no! I fucking hate Jack Johnson's music. Oh my god, that is a perfect Wheel of Death because I fucking hate that music. Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
painful.
So,
I'm
and that's going to
sad.
include the
I'm
Curious
sad.
George soundtrack. Just we'll go ahead and get that on
Oh!
record before. So yeah, we're adding Jack Johnson as like a singer songwriter vibe, but like
I'm
way too
so
happy
sad.
versus way too sad.
Brilliant. You fucking nailed it. Okay, are you ready to hear what band we're doing next?
Yeah, who you got?
Basically the opposite of Cat Power. It's the Distillers.
Oh, the distillers.
Not the sports ball.
The Steelers?
I was gonna say the sports band.
Cool, yeah, distillers. That'll be fun. More punk rock.
Yes,
More
way
Brody
more
Dale.
our vibe. We needed a
Yeah.
break from.
Yeah, this will be a little shot in the arm after our more low key outing in the lands of Cat Power. Well, I'll get started on the Distillers discography, and we'll have that episode out in 2 weeks.
In the meantime, check us out on all social media at Retrospectrum Pod.
Email us at retrospectrumpod@gmail.com.
And subscribe to our Patreon.
See you next time.
Bye.
Retrospect.